Are you having problems with jealousy? Hi there, and welcome back to Ask Dr. Saira, the show where I answer your questions about mental health, personal growth, and relationships. Today's question comes from Mona. Mona says, why am I jealous of people who are supposedly my friends? Why am I jealous of people who are supposedly my friends? This is a really honest question. Thank you for asking it, Mona. Um, it's a question I've heard more than once, and um, it often comes when the friendships that you have are not exactly the friendships that you want, but they're the friendships that you have. So you kind of are doing, you might have been around these people for a long time, or you might have inherited this friend group from, a friend of a friend or that sort of thing. So this thing can happen where we start feeling jealous. It can also happen with people we've known for a really long time who are good friends, and then suddenly we start feeling jealous of something about their life. So it happens, and I'm glad you're asking and having the courage to ask this question. As we unpack this question, there's kind of three different themes that I want to address. The first is our beliefs about friendship. The second is around comparing. And then the third is something I call the mirror. So let's start with our beliefs about friendship. There are a variety of ways that people conceptualize friendship. And what you think is a good friend might not necessarily be the main important areas for somebody else. So an example might be, when I was younger, what was really, really important to me was remembering details. So remembering people's birthdays and remembering their favorite food and remembering, what they like to do for their spare time and just remembering those details of their lives. As my life changed, and especially as I came to work as a therapist and so much of my brain space was taken up with the details of my clients' lives, that sort of element of friendship I wasn't able to kind of keep up with that anymore. So I wasn't able to, buy gifts and make a real effort on people's birthdays. I started forgetting some of the details of their lives. And is that right? Is that wrong? I'm not sure, but it was happening. And so now I've noticed that there's other things that symbolize friendship to me more than simply getting a greeting on my birthday, right? And it was a change, and I don't know if it was a good change. I don't know if it was a bad change, but it's something that has evolved in my own life. And I know I just said it, right? I know that's part of the reason for that is I'm very consciously remembering a lot of specific details about a lot of people for a long term. And so my closest loved ones sometimes get the short end of that. If one of my friends was measuring our friendship by, does she call me on my birthday, or does she give me a gift on my birthday, or does she remember, to something specific about my life, if that's the measurement, and that would be an accurate measurement because that's how it has been for many years, suddenly I stopped doing that, the friend might feel like I'm not being a good friend. It's a very logical conclusion that one of my friends might come to. And it's funny, I have this one friend that I've had since, well, we were frenemies until grade 9. And then in grade 10, we became really good friends, and we've remained friends ever since. And that's one of the things we talk about how I used to be a certain way with my friendships and certain things were really prioritized for me, and how that's changed over time since I've, started my own family, started a really kind of involved career. The way that I relate to that friend has changed. And we talk about that, right? Like, hey, have you noticed blah, blah, blah. I bring it up to my friend and like, how's that landing with you? So it can be navigated and negotiated when there's changes in friendships. But if you believe that friendships need to stay exactly the same as they were 15 years ago or 5 years ago, then you're probably going to be kind of disappointed. Okay. So now what does this have to do with jealousy? Some of our beliefs around friendship have to do with how our friends celebrate us, right? If you're not getting celebrated as a friend, you can start feeling like you're getting the short end of the stick. If every time you share something that's exciting about your life and you get this sense of disconnect from your friend, or they just don't seem happy for you, that's a threat to the friendship. That's a threat to the bond. And so on some level, without meaning to, you may be sending out some strange vibes when your friends are, or your particular friend is, thriving in some way and you're not happy for them. That's a problematic stance, and it's something to do some self-reflection on. So one of the things to in our beliefs about friendship is not only what kinds of friends do I want to have, but also what kind of friend do I want to be. Right. And I think that's probably where this question comes from, is you want to be a better friend, and you want to kind of negotiate around this jealousy piece because it doesn't feel good to you, and, probably it doesn't feel good to them. Even if they don't know that's what's going on, they'll feel something's a bit off. So this leads us to our second point, which is comparing. We have been raised to compare ourselves to others. Our society encourages that. Our schools encourage the way that we went, our education system encouraged that. Our workplaces encourage that we should be kind of noticing where we're at as compared to other people. And this is a natural thing as social mammals. We're going to be looking around to see, where do I fit in the social structure? However, the problem with comparing is it can really affect our self-esteem. So let me break this down. The ego, right? That part of us that really, really identifies with our brain and our body. And that's who I am. That's all I am, is my brain and my body. And that's the part of us that likes to be right, that likes to be in control, that likes things to be predictable, that likes to kind of, that really, really, really thrives on achievement and success, but then doesn't really feel fulfilled unless achieving and succeeding. That's the ego. That's a high level description. The ego, the lifeblood of the ego is comparing itself to other people. Okay, so let me get into that a little bit. There's two ways that we compare ourselves to other people. We either look down on people, where we think, I'm better than them, I have more talent, I have more whatever, I'm somehow better than them. Or the other way, that, and a little more insidious way, that does, it's obvious. If you're looking down on people, it's obvious to you that maybe I shouldn't be looking down on people, right? But another way that we compare is we actually look up to people and kind of put people around us on a pedestal and feel we could never achieve that, right? So, I wish I was more like that. I wish I did. And that's where jealousy starts breeding, right? There's a difference between envy and jealousy, right? So envy is like, I wish I had that. And jealousy is like, I wish they didn't have that. Okay, so jealousy can be really corrosive, because you're not only kind of coveting somebody else's life, you're also kind of wishing they didn't have it and you had it instead. And that comes from looking up at people. That's where it comes from. So if we're willing to start to put the ego aside and start seeing each other from more of a spiritual place, right? That from a spiritual perspective, maybe we're all just kind of the same, humans bumbling along, trying to live this life in the best way we can figure out how to do that, and start looking across at people, right? Start to see the equality and the similarities and the sameness that we have with other people, rather than focusing on the differentness and the better than, worse than way of interacting with people. Then the jealousy kind of dissipates, because you're understanding. Okay, I'll give you an example. I was talking to a colleague, a few years ago, and we were talking about, coveting people's lives. I wish I lived the life that Oprah lives, for example. And then we talked about it a little bit and kind of deepening into it. And it reminded me of something that Tony Robbins talks about, which is, you could live that life, but are you willing to put in the effort that it takes to live that life? Right? So when you see something out there that looks very juicy and really attractive to you, are you willing to do what it takes to get that in your life? Like, I think about, looking at people who are really fit and strong and muscular and, really flexible. That's kind of what I've been noticing these days. And I can look at them and say, I wish I had that in my body. Or I could actually do the hard work that it takes to get that, right? That there's actually a backstory to that thing that you're seeing. And so that's something to be mindful of when you're comparing yourself to other people, is that you don't know all of what it took for them to get that thing that you're just seeing the end product of, right? You also don't know about their hidden demons, right? We all have these things about us that most of the world doesn't know. We kind of keep it tucked away, and maybe only our closest loved ones know that about us, know some challenge that we're facing, right? We all have that, or some, something from our past that we regret or we feel shameful about. So just seeing that one dimension of their final product success isn't really an accurate description of what this person's journey has been, right? So if you want their end result, you also have to embrace their journey, which most of us don't want to do. We just don't. Otherwise, we would be doing it and we wouldn't be coveting and being jealous of other people, right? So that's the second piece, is the ego and comparison. And the way to switch that is to start seeing the sameness, how I'm the same as others. And what that requires is a real deep soul searching around the possibility for interdependence, right? That I don't have to just always be leaning on others. I don't always have to be taking care of others, but I can do that back and forth where I give a little and I get a little, and it's balanced. So that's interdependence. That's another video for another time. So I won't go into more of that, but just to drop the seed. The last thing I wanted to talk about was this concept of the mirror. So Dr. Gabor Mate talks about this, and many, many other teachers and thinkers around what other people bring up in us, okay? What does somebody else bring up in me? So what I see in someone else, I can only see that, I can only pay attention to that if there's something in me that resonates with that. So let me give you an example. I might judge someone as being lazy. Okay, so I might think, oh, they're so lazy. I don't do this anymore. I used to look at people and think, oh my gosh, they're so lazy. And when I learned about this mirroring, right, this mirror work, is that if I'm seeing laziness in them and I'm judging that, there's probably something in me that needs a little look at. So if I'm looking at someone else and saying, I wish I had that, or they've got this quality, then there's something in me that I want to look at. So let's talk about jealousy. You're jealous of your friend. I don't know what the jealousy is about, but let's say that they got a promotion at work, okay? And you work in a similar field and you haven't got a promotion and you're feeling a bit jealous. So what I would encourage you to do then is say, okay, so what I'm noticing is that I'm jealous because they got the promotion and I didn't. So let's go a little bit deeper, okay? What am I assuming that they have that I don't have? Okay, maybe they're more talented. Maybe I feel like they're more talented than me. So once you kind of get to the nugget of what is actually going on here underneath the jealousy, then we can take that word talented and look inside and say, are there places that actually I am talented that maybe I'm hiding out and I'm actually not expressing that talent, right? So rather than I wish I was talented, is maybe I am talented in some area and it needs to kind of come to the surface and it needs to be watered. It's a really difficult thing to do, right? Because what's more easy for us is to say that person over there is that way and that's wrong, or that person over there is that way and I wish I could have that. With mirroring, what we're saying is, okay, that person over there is that thing. Where can I find that in myself? Where can I find that in myself? This is what's the group workshops are so exciting because of this principle, right? So you have a group of people and people are telling their stories. And instead of saying, whoa, they're messed up, what we do instead is we say, where does this apply to my life? Where can I relate to this story? And where can I actually learn from this person's journey and struggle towards myself? Rather than judging them better than worse than, we say, how are we the same here? Right? So it's similar to the spiritual way of seeing each other. How are we the same here? And many of us have tucked away things so deeply. Many of us have tucked away negative things, but many of us have also tucked away the shiny things about ourselves. So if you're jealous of someone, you want to ask yourself, what do they have that I wish I had? And how can I find that in myself? Okay. It's a very different, like I said, it's a very different way of approaching partnerships, relationships, friendships, but it's worth a try if you haven't tried it. So those are my thoughts for this question about being jealous of your friends. And the last thing is, and just a caveat, is that maybe there's more than jealousy going on. So to look at, is this actually a deeper issue with your friends where you're kind of growing in different directions and you need to kind of reevaluate the friendship? That's a possibility too. But if it's just that superficial jealousy, there's some of this inner work that you can do to overcome that jealousy. So those are my thoughts for today. Not therapy or medical advice, but just some ideas for you to ponder. If you have a question that you'd like to ask, send it to me via email, the email address at the end of this video, and look around on our channel for lots of interesting mental health and healing content. And I will see you next time. Bye.